Hello! In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to draw and paint a fox in watercolour. If you'd like the full tutorial to see how all three of these are drawn and painted, you can find that on my Patreon. All you need to do is search for Scorecard. Okay, so let's get started. I've done a materials list in the caption of the video. So once you've got yourself set up, settle in, and I hope you enjoy drawing and painting these foxes with me. We're going to start with a bit of freehand drawing, and we're going to do that by using the finding the shapes method. So let's go through that now. In this picture that we're using, the fox is sat on a bit of a wall. I think the picture is taken in someone's garden, and I want to make it look like he's sat in the grass, similar to how I did the hares. So I'm going to change the way his tail is. His tail is dropped down over the wall. I'm going to make it look like it's more curling around him, as if he was on the land. To start the drawing off, I need to mark where I want his feet to be on the ground and also where the tops of his ears are going to be. We're going to use a freehand drawing technique that I like to call finding the shapes. So we're going to find what shapes we can see in the overall shape of the fox, put those in as a guide, and then we're going to refine the drawing using those shapes so that we can get the proportions right and things afterwards. So definitely a triangle shape to start with. And then there's a bit of a rectangle shape there that forms his neck, and then another triangle that forms his head. Now, his ear's going to be there and there. Are those ears where we want them? There's enough space up here, as long as I don't make it any bigger than that. So let's start with, there's that ear. Let's go down, that's his neck, and then that's the body. Just move that ear across a little bit. So just move the ear across a little bit. Put more of his face shape in. That's the chest. This forms part of the front leg and the paw. Bit of that body there because they're quite slender, these foxes. Little paw there. Now what do we do with the tail? In the picture it comes down here. I think I'm going to make it go out here and then around, a bit like that. They have nice big bushy tails, so what I'm doing now, after I've got the initial drawing in, is marking in some of his markings. So where is there a difference between the white fur and the orange fur, and where are there any shadows and things like that, and the facial features and things. So just spend a bit of time now going through, looking at the picture and putting in those details. So that's that line there. And remember, when we're painting these lines are where we're keeping a little gap of paper without paint on, so it's going to give us that line. So let's do a bit more on the face. So he's got a white chest, so it goes across like that. Little black nose. And then his eye is roughly there. Let's get rid of some of these lines. Got the other leg, front leg is here, and little paw. After a little bit of tidying up, rubbing out all the first lines that we put on, this one's finished. We're going to start by mixing burnt sienna. Now, I thought that was going to be the main colour I was going to use, but a little bit later on I changed my mind, and that turns into cadmium orange that I use. So still mix some burnt sienna, and then the next colour I mix is alizarin crimson. And then what I'm going to do is do a little bit of a tester on the page. You'll see me do on the scrap bit on the side, and that's just part of the process of me deciding what colour I actually want to paint him. I'm just going to test this. Do we need that, or do we actually need a cadmium orange? I think the orange for the win. Let's make him nice and bright. It'll be different to the hair then. And that's why it's good to test your colours before you start painting with them, because you might make a last minute change like I did. So get some cadmium orange mixed, and then I also mixed some Gambogue Hue, which is one of my favourite yellows. And yeah, that's the colour I want. We will begin using a medium brush, which is number 6. I'm topping up the colours and adding a bit more water into the wells to make them a bit more dilute. And that's because we're going to use a version of the wet in wet technique where we put the wet paint onto dry paper, but we want it to be quite dilute so that it stays wet for a while, so we've got time to work on it. And then what we're going to do is place another colour next to it and just gently touch them together so that they'll blend with soft edges. So we start by going around the edges of the drawing, and then we fill in across the middle parts, just touching some areas together and leaving some areas of white. And you're going to leave those little areas of white where you think you can see possibly a highlight on the picture. So we'll start up here. Okay, we're going around the edge, and remembering to leave a bit of white space on the other side. So that's going to give us that curve when we rub that pencil line out. Go up to the edge of the white fur on his chest. And now we can start to bring the brush across. So he would have a bit of a highlight around here because of his shoulder. So I'm going to leave a bit of white there. And then he has got a bit of highlight down here and on here. So we'll do a bit around there. Leave it a bit like that. I might get rid of that part. There we go. Need a bit more in here. Again, because his arm comes up here, you could leave that bit white there. It's all part of the, adds to the look of the watercolour. So let's take some crimson now and pop it into some shadow areas. So behind his ear, there's a bit of that. And in all these sort of areas where there's a bit of shadow, I'm going to put the crimson and decide if we like it or not, because we might need some of that burnt sienna to dull down some of this if we want to. So let's put some of that on. Also in the shadow areas and along the edge. I think the burnt sienna actually ties in all the colours together quite nicely. And the arms are darker. I'm not going to touch the two bits together there because that will bleed into this part, so I'm going to keep that arm separate. But while the arms are still wet, I'm going to take some strong Payne's Grey. Start at the feet, judge how much is on your brush. To wipe a bit off. And then on the back of the leg, where it's a bit darker, and the same with that one. That one's behind, so it's probably a little bit darker still. And we could probably do something similar with this foot. And you can touch those two colours together. They'll blend nicely. Okay, we'll do his face now. So I've cleaned the brush and we're going back to the bright orange. I haven't used any yellow yet. I don't think I need to be honest. Don't think I need the yellow because we've got the orange. That's all white. Take a bit of the crimson just to tie it in. Put some on under his face there. And a bit of the burnt sienna. Where should we put that? On the ear, definitely. See here, I think I dropped a little bit too much water, so I've just cleaned the brush and it's just damp. I'm just going to lift some of that out, just using the brush like a sponge, just to take some out. Can you see where I've drawn the line of the eye? I've left a bit of white underneath. Very, very small amount. We've got black tips on his ears. There we go. A bit pointier there. There we go. He also has a little black nose. Okay, we need to let the face and things dry before we do any more on there. So we'll do the tail. Same sort of way. Around the edges first. Leave a bit of white on the tip. And then a few brush marks on the inside. Try not to cover all of the white. That pencil line will get rubbed out, so I'm just putting it in with the orange just so we've got it in there. Bit of red on the inside. We need a bit of the burnt sienna to tie it in with the rest of it, so let's take some of that around the outside. It's a bit of shadow here actually, so we could go a bit darker with that there. I'm just jumping in to tell you about this next section. I am going to put some Payne's Grey into the areas where we put the crimson before because I want the shadows to be darker, but I've been able to do it because my painting is still wet. If your painting has dried, you can either not do this part if you don't feel like you need to, or if you want to do it, put a bit of water over the area first, so you're doing wet in wet technique, and then you can add the Payne's Grey on top of that. So you don't want a lot of water, just a little bit. But if you just put this paint onto the dry painting, if yours has dried, you're not going to get the soft blending that you want. So if you have watch the video a little bit first and then decide what you want to do. So they do have, he has a bit of a shadow in here which is quite dark. That's a bit too dark there, I think. Make his paws darker. I've diluted some Payne's Grey. Then I'm just going to put into there to bring a bit of shadow in because it was all looking very samey. And the same with here. There's a bit of dilute Payne's Grey, which because this is still wet, I can put on. It's just giving us a bit of shadow there. A bit around the ear as well. In the middle of the ear. So I've done a sweeping L shape for the top of his eye. And just using the very tip of the brush, put in the round part of his eye. So I wonder whether to just very carefully take away some of the pencil line. So it's less pencil marky. So I'm going to put his, with some dilute Payne's Grey, the mouth part. Then he has got some shadow under here, which I'm a bit reluctant to do very dark. So this is a very dilute Payne's Grey. And then I'm going to put the outline of his chest in there. That Payne's grey. See, I think that goes way too far over like that. So I'm going to lighten that part up. There you go. Take it away. Bit of orange there that's leaked across that I don't want. I think we need to do this Payne's grey shadow near his bottom as well here. So again, my paint here is still a bit wet, so I can drop that in and still get wet in wet technique. If yours is dry, then pop a bit of water on first. There we go. So just refining some of the shadows. Definitely need black to be darker on the ear. And his eye. Just go over that bit again. There we go. So I'm going to let it dry before I do the ground. We'll paint this one now. Well, actually, that's if you're watching on Patreon. What we're going to do is let this one dry completely so that we can carry on with the next part, which is putting the ground in. So what colour are we going to do the ground? So the hair has yellow and the badger has the same Payne's grey that he sat on. So I think I might do the burnt sienna, which is this browny colour, so that it's somewhere matching in between. All of these all tie in together then. So, burnt sienna, brush, keeping the brush nice and flat compared to the, not like this where it's pointing up vertically down, keeping it flat. As flat as you can anyway, holding it, without holding it, using the tip. Actually, I'm going to use it like that. So I'm actually holding it in my hand like that, flat. So this is a dry brush technique. So I've got paint on the brush and I'm using it on the side, like I just said, using the belly part of the brush just to scrape along the surface of the paper. And because I'm using rough paper, it's picking up that texture and creating that look that we've got there that looks like the ground. I'm also going to add in some little tufts of grass a little bit later, but less is more. If you get in a whole brush mark, a full brush mark of paint, you've got too much paint on. So take a bit of paint off, do a little tester, and then carry on. Do his little feet. And then, oops, I need a bit more paint. Some grass. So we need to dry it all completely. Perfect time to walk away, have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and come back. Or if you're impatient like me, gently dry it with a hairdryer. So once you've let it dry completely, you can rub out all of the pencil lines all around the edges of the painting, and especially in those inner lines that we kept clear from paint earlier, like around his legs and arms. You can see then if you need to do any finishing touches. I do decide to do a little bit more shadow under his chin in a moment. There's not a lot of definition here, so I think we just need a tiny bit of a shadow there. A little bit dark. we go. And so there we go. It's all done. Drawn freehand and then painted in a loose style watercolour. Don't forget, if you want to do the other two foxes as well, the full tutorial is available on my Patreon. Just search for Scorecart. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to see your work, so do send me a picture or tag me on Instagram or something. I did this one actually as an in-person class. I taught 4 people how to do the fox step by step, and this is some of their artwork that they did on the night, so have a look at these. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and see you on another one.